Today we have overrated, underrated. We're going through all of your questions to see what you guys decide with WWE, what is considered over or under. And the first one is going to be about Paul Heyman. BLS16 says Paul Heyman has been super underrated during his entirety of the Bloodline story. He showed up every week, even when Roman wasn't there. He's been particularly outstanding when playing a massive babyface during the Bloodline 2.0 era. I guess you could say that Paul is underrated. I mean, he is a Hall of Famer. His work in the Bloodline is always great. It might be just that like the years that we had of him with Brock felt kind of underwhelming because it was a lot of the same shtick. But with the Bloodline, I mean, it's propelled him to a new level. And I think even like most recently, like with Bloodline 2.0 and the direction they've taken with him, it's really shown the depth, the dimension, the length of like his character and how well he can perform. Like last week with the whole beatdown of Paul Heyman by the Bloodline, I thought it was like just next level. So yeah, sure. Paul Heyman's underrated. Noon says underrated. Rey and Dom's feud and their storyline. It was probably one of Rey Mysterio's best storylines / rivalries he's ever had, I think. In WWE, it's up there. I mean, Rey's had good storylines when it comes to Eddie Guerrero, like the Dom ladder match, custody of Dom, Batista. He's had good stories, but Rey Mysterio has always been one of those superstars that never like totally clicked with me. Like always the underdog babyface that has worked, but he's been around forever. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a knock on Rey at all. He's phenomenal. He still is at this age, at this stage of his career. But the Dom storyline, because it is his kid, it really picked things up. And what's really cool is the longevity of that storyline. So for them to be able to have Rey and Dom interact anytime on Raw, and they shove each other, push each other, like it never ends. This is the cool part about Dom and Rey's story, is that they can do it again. They had the tag team match at WrestleMania. They could do like a final, like a best of 3 series and do the final match at WrestleMania 41. It's just there. It's there for when they want to do it. I still think that the final match that they should do, hair versus mask, Dom wins. Jay Chapman 200 says underrated. I think people don't give Christian enough credit, especially on his current run in AEW. Imagine if it was on a bigger scale like WWE. Christian is one of those guys that I think people look back on, especially when he will eventually fully retire. When he is done, I think people are going to look back at Christian and go, man, that guy had a really awesome career and I wish we had more of it. Especially his character, like you said, in AEW. Christian's work in AEW is like his heel WWE character a little bit, just unhinged, next level. Like he can do anything he wants, kind of. He's got more freedom in AEW. The Christian AEW turtleneck character heel is my favorite version of him, and I think he dialed it in so much. I wish AEW was doing more with him right now, because things like Christian at a press conference in AEW was amazing, and then he had the feud with Cope, and it was kind of up and down. But Christian's character work is so awesome. He can still perform in a high level in the ring. Reminds me of Randy Orton in terms of just not having to do a lot, but what he does do is impactful and it means a lot. So Christian's got that depth, and I think he could still go for like another 5 years at this point. Eventually you just make Christian like a manager and you could do that, but Christian's character, absolutely underrated. Pussa Slayer 8080, okay, says underrated. Damage Control's potential implosion storyline, because the feud between them, specifically Dakota Kai versus Io Sky, would be phenomenal and wouldn't and shouldn't need a championship like Punk Drew. Thought it'd be a completely different story with different motives. It's a little underrated. They just haven't done anything. Like I don't know what they're gonna do to eventually kind of have Damage Control implode. Them as a faction, as a group, is a little underrated right now, especially like they had the split from Bayley, they had the draft, now they're on Raw, and I feel like they are just kind of spinning their wheels when it comes to being on Raw and as a faction. They're gonna go after like the tag titles a little bit. They're doing individual work too. What's good with Damage Control is that they are individual wrestlers, individual stars. Like they can stand on their own as individuals, go after individual titles, but they could also team up and be a good, cool faction. I do think that they need one other person. They need more in that faction, like more of the leader within that, because you've got the Kabuki Warriors, you have Io Sky, Dakota Kai. I do think that you kind of need one other person in there to spearhead the thing. Death Mauler says overrated, Liv Morgan. Oh no. And underrated, Bobby Lashley. Tricky. So Liv's current character I think is rated. I think it's right on par. This current version of Liv Morgan, this storyline with Judgment Day and Dom, it's working, and I think it's her best work because I'm getting more of her character and I'm understanding who she is. She can wrestle in the ring. She's not some 5-star wrestler. I've never seen a Liv Morgan match that I'm like, wow, this impressed me so much. So like this 5-star match, it's not that. And then over the years, her character hasn't really done a lot for me because they've switched. They've tried so many different things with her and it hasn't really clicked. This is the first time for me that her character work has clicked. Also, she's world champion. She hasn't wrestled. She's just doing the characters. Like she has not wrestled, ladies and gentlemen. So is she overrated? I think she has been in the past. I don't understand it personally because I've just like, yeah, Liv's fine. But there are people that are just like, they love Liv Morgan. I don't understand it, but that's me. That's okay. But for underrated, Bobby Lashley, kind of. Bobby is like another one, like we talked about Christian. I think Bobby Lashley is somebody that once he eventually retires from wrestling, people are gonna look back and go, wow, we missed Bobby Lashley. Bobby's great. And I wish he would do more with the Pride and the whole faction he has. I wish he was going for like the world title. Bobby needs to be doing more. They got him kind of spinning his wheels once again. I mean, he could get into the US title again and elevate it, but when he had that US title, he did elevate it and he made it feel really important. But I can never tell with like Bobby and Street Profits and them. I'm like, are you faces? Are you heels? They kind of flip around based on what they want to do. But Bobby Lashley, sure, he's underrated because he's just phenomenal in the ring. He's a big powerhouse. I think they just need to like make him a little more aggressive and go after some titles. He needs a meaty feud. Bobby says overrated. The fans' obsession with Brock Lesnar. I just don't get it. Underrated. The WWE's current tag division. It has the potential to be great with the right push. I'll give you that with the tag division. The tag division has depth. They have depth. They show that at WrestleMania, the buildup, but they haven't utilized every team. And I don't think they've utilized every team to their full effectiveness because they've just kind of splintered them off into like either some other stories like AOP plays with the tag titles, but then they don't. You have DIY is firmly trying to go after the WWE tag titles. A-Town Down Under obviously is tag champs. You got the Judgment Day now have the tag titles, which is I think is the right move because Miz and R-Truth, not doing too much. But you can like New Catch Republic is out there too. So they have a lot. Pretty Deadly is out there. Rated RKO, you know what? RKO, I'd be like, give them the tag titles. Let's give Kevin Owens and Randy Orton a run with the tag titles. That'd be cool. So they have the depth. I just don't think that they're being utilized enough. So yeah, it's underrated. But for Brock, overrated, Brock's a tricky one. I get what you're saying because he's been around for so long. There are years there with, especially the run against Roman Reigns where I'm like, I don't care. I don't care at all. He come in, he do his shuffle. Paul Heyman would say his name a bunch, run the promos for him. Out he went, suplexes in the matches, finisher. And Brock was done. And I get it, that was Brock's character. That's his thing. That was his whole deal. But it just was so boring to me, especially during that time frame of just going up main events against Roman Reigns or even Undertaker, where I'm like, okay, can we please move on from this? It's not interesting. His only interesting thing I saw him do like back then was like Samoa Joe. It was like a Great Balls of Fire. That was great, but that was something different. I'd be curious if Brock comes back again and does kind of one more run. The run with Cody was kind of meh. It was all right, but I wonder if they did one more run with Brock, how it would be. Him as a face, I think got really over. Cowboy Brock got over with the crowd, but I would like to see one more time what they could do. Is he overrated? Maybe. And then we have Brian Smith, overrated. Solo Sikoa. I don't see him as somebody who should be taken seriously. Underrated, JD McDonough. He is a very talented wrestler, but he never gets a chance to wrestle. JD's on TV every week, basically. But I think what you mean is like he doesn't get to flush out his character a little bit more. JD's in like tag matches all the time, so I think JD's pretty much rated where he should be. He's a very good wrestler. Solo being overrated, this is an interesting one because I've even said this on like a previous video I did covering SmackDown, the Bloodline segment, and them taking out Paul Heyman. And I think I said in there like, Solo, I don't buy him as kind of like tribal chief, but that is the point. I think people miss the point even when I said that because I saw the comments. People were like, well, Solo's awesome, like, you're an idiot. And I'm like, no, it's just the way they are writing him, I do not believe he is the tribal chief. That is the point. So in storyline, yeah, it's working because Solo, I'm like, he doesn't have that presence, that aura of a Jacob Fatu or a Roman Reigns or anything. He's not like this giant 6'3" guy. He's been the henchman. And so him being like pseudo leader hasn't really made sense to me. He's also got a terrible win streak. Like the man has not won at all. He won recently, right? But before that, he beat John Cena. That was like the last one. And then he won like maybe 2 more times after that. But Solo hasn't done too much in terms of winning on TV. They're building his character, which is great. But again, is it overrated? It depends how we're looking at it, because on face value, just what you see on TV, I'd say yes, because I'm like, well, the guy doesn't wrestle. He loses a lot. They put him as leader, again, in storyline. They put him as leader of a faction of the Bloodline, and he doesn't seem like a threatening character. Like everyone else is threatening around him, and I don't get why they would make him leader and not anybody else, because everyone else seems to be more dominant, threatening, and like spooky, scary than Solo does. Solo still feels like the henchman guy, even when he wears a suit jacket. I'm like, it doesn't work for me. But again, I'm saying that in the context of the story and what is presented on TV. But I understand too that WWE is doing this because like The Rock is clearly final boss. He is tribal chief, and Solo is just kind of like the interim guy. So is he overrated? Maybe in the context of the story. I still like Solo, and I want to see what they're going to do with the 6-man, and does he have the match at SummerSlam against Cody Rhodes? That's the big question. Thank you guys so much for submitting your overrated, underrated for this week. If you want more, and we're talking about the Bloodline, a little bit more about Solo and all that, click this video right here, because we talk about that whole segment and the beatdown, the attack of Paul Heyman. Thank you so much for joining us. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.